Why did Jesus' disciples not abandon him in John 6? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of John on walking through the Bible.
His word, the glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, turn to John chapter 6. We're going to be reading from verses 60 to 71. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So John chapter 6, beginning of verse 60. Therefore many of his disciples, when they heard this, said, "This is a hard saying. Who can understand it?" When Jesus knew in himself that his disciples complained about this, he said to them, "Does this offend you? What then if you should see the Son of Man ascend where he was before? It is the Spirit who gives life. The flesh profits nothing. The words that I speak to you are spirit, and they are life. But there are some of you who do not believe." For Jesus knew from the beginning who were they who did not believe, and who would betray him. And he said, "Therefore I have said to you that no one can come to me unless it has been granted to him by my Father." From that time many of his disciples went back and walked with him no more. Then Jesus said to the 12, "Do you also want to go away?" But Simon Peter answered him, "Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. Also we have come to believe and know that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered them, "Did I not choose you, the 12, and one of you is a devil?" He spoke of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, for it was he who would betray him, being one of the 12. We're coming to a close of chapter 6, and thus closing the section on Jesus being the bread of life. In this teaching, Jesus was claimed to be the true bread from heaven, God himself. If people would thus eat his flesh and drink his blood, in other words, if people conformed their life to the teachings of Jesus, they would have everlasting life. The people first had a problem with Jesus being from heaven, since they knew Jesus' parents. But Jesus said that if God didn't draw them through the gospel, then it was truly impossible to know him and know the Father. For Jesus testified of the Father, whom he had seen. The Jews also had a problem with eating Jesus' flesh and drinking his blood, thinking that Jesus was speaking literally. And in truth, this saying is a hard saying, one that we really have to sit down and think about if we are to truly understand it. But those who want to open their mind to God will sit down and think about it, and we can understand it. Jesus knew what the crowd said and asked them if this saying offended them. Jesus isn't using the word offended the same way that we do, to mean insulted. He is using it in the way of causing one to stumble. If they were having difficulty understanding Jesus' words, are they going to stumble over him and walk away? Would they also have difficulty if they saw the Son of Man ascend to where he was before, which is heaven? Jews always sought after signs, but never wanted to heed the teachings of Jesus. Jesus continues by saying that the Spirit gives life and the flesh profits nothing. What makes us alive? Well, science has shown us that our brain controls all the systems in our body. Our blood provides and transports oxygen given through the lungs to our body. Our heart pumps the blood. Our digestive system provides the nutrients that keep all these other systems going. And so, if the brain dies, so does our body. If the heart dies, so does our body. If our lungs die, so does the body. And the same could be said of most of our organs. But those things are what keep our physical bodies alive. What makes us alive? It is our spirit, the thing we can't see, the thing provided by God. That is how God provides life. He provides our spirit. Without the spirit, the body is dead. If our body becomes too damaged or too old, our spirit will leave, and our body will die. The people of that day were seeking after the physical, whether it's physical food or simply the glory of their physical lineage through Abraham. Those things profit nothing, because the Spirit gives life. Jesus' words are spiritual. They are spirit and they are life. Words that lead to eternal life. And yet, since the Jews were focused on the physical, there were many who would not believe the spiritual. Jesus concluded that no one can come to him unless it has been granted to him by the Father. This is similar to what we talked about in the last lesson about the one whom God draws. If people and us won't hear and heed the words of Jesus, we aren't drawn by the Father and can't come to Jesus. Jesus is the only way. From that time, many of his disciples went back and walked with him no more. Now this doesn't mean all of his disciples, for the 12 would remain. Nor does it mean that nobody again will come to Jesus, for we know from the other Gospels that they will. But Jesus lost many disciples that day, and was willing to do so, because they would not heed the truth. Now what is recorded here about many people not following after Jesus after this point might seem strange, since we're not even 30% of the way through John, and only about a third of the way through our lessons in John. But remember to the beginning of the chapter, this took place around the third Passover of Jesus' ministry. Jesus is about 2/3 of the way through his ministry at this point, and his teachings are becoming harder and more pointed at this time in order to separate believers from people who just followed him for the miracles. In our next lesson, we're going to jump another 6 months into the future. So in this time frame, it does make sense that many did forsake Jesus. However, the 12 did not. And when Jesus asked them if they were going to leave, Peter responded in verses 68 and 69, "Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. Also we have come to believe and know that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Peter was confident that Jesus was the bread of life, the living water, the Christ, the Son of God, and so to whom else could they go? For nobody could provide eternal life except Jesus. Now, of course, Peter was confident about the 12, but Jesus knew the hearts of all, and responded that there was one among them who was a devil, who had a heart that was susceptible to the temptations of Satan, one who would betray him. The disciples at the time didn't know, and I suspect even Judas didn't know. But Jesus knew. And by the time the book of John was written, John knew too, which is why Judas is identified here. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of John chapter 7, verses 1 to 9, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.
Of his cross.